The coffee shop on Kepler Station buzzed with the usual morning crowd of traders, miners, and station workers. Maya Chen sat in the corner booth, her fingers wrapped around a steaming mug, watching the diverse mix of alien species conduct their daily business. To anyone observing, she appeared to be just another human colonist trying to make a living on the frontier. Her clothes were simple, her demeanor quiet, and her presence unremarkable. But Maya's eyes told a different story. They moved constantly, cataloging exits, identifying potential threats, and noting the positioning of every being in the establishment. When a Zephyrian trader accidentally knocked over a chair, her hand instinctively moved toward her hip before she caught herself. Old habits died hard, especially when those habits had kept her alive through 3 galactic wars. She had been living on Kepler Station for 8 months now, working as a cargo manifest clerk for the trading consortium. It was honest work, boring work, and exactly what she needed. After 15 years as humanity's most decorated Special Forces operative, Maya had earned her anonymity. The scars on her arms were hidden beneath long sleeves, and the neural implants that once connected her to military networks had been surgically removed. She was just another face in the crowd, and that was how she wanted it. The morning routine continued as it had for months. Maya finished her coffee, nodded to the Altarian barista who had become accustomed to her presence, and walked the familiar path to the cargo bay complex. The artificial gravity felt lighter here than on Earth, and sometimes she caught herself adjusting her stride to compensate for reflexes trained in combat zones across a dozen worlds. Her supervisor, a heavyset human named Rodriguez, barely looked up when she arrived. "Morning, Chen. Got a special shipment coming in today." High-priority stuff from the inner colonies. Command wants it processed immediately. Maya nodded and took her position at the inspection terminal. The work was methodical and soothing. Each crate was scanned, its contents verified against the manifest, and its destination confirmed. She had processed thousands of shipments without incident, maintaining the peaceful existence she had built for herself. The array. First sign of trouble came when her scanner detected an anomaly in crate designation XK7742, the manifest listed agricultural equipment, but the molecular signature suggested something far more sophisticated. Maya's trained instincts recognized the readings immediately. Advanced weaponry with Terran military specifications. Her blood ran cold as she realized what she was looking at. Before she could process the implications, the cargo bay's main doors sealed with a sharp hiss. Emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in red, and the station's communication system crackled to life with an announcement that made Maya's worst fears reality. Attention all station personnel. This facility is now under the control of the Hegemony Collective. All resistance will be met with immediate termination. Remain in your current locations and await further instructions. Maya's carefully constructed new life shattered in that moment. Around her, civilian workers panicked, but her military training kicked in automatically. She assessed the situation with the cold efficiency that had made her legendary among human forces. The Hegemony Collective was a ruthless alliance of several alien species that viewed humanity as a threat to galactic stability. If they had taken Kepler Station, it meant they were planning something significant. The cargo bay held nearly 40 civilians, including several families with children. The Hegemony forces would show no mercy, and Maya knew that without intervention everyone in this room would be dead within hours. She looked at her hands, calloused from months of honest labor, and felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Rodriguez appeared beside her, his face pale with terror. "What do we do, Chen? What the hell do we do?" Maya closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the last vestiges of her peaceful existence slip away. When she opened them again, they held the steely determination that had once struck fear into the hearts of humanity's enemies. "We survive," she said quietly, her voice carrying an authority that seemed to come from nowhere, "and we make them regret ever coming here." The cargo bay fell silent as something in Maya's tone commanded attention. For the first time in 8 months, the warrior that had been dormant within her began to stir. The stranger she had tried to become was about to remember exactly who she used to be. Maya moved through the cargo bay with purpose, her movements now fluid and precise in a way that made the panicked civilians pause and watch. She approached the sealed door and placed her ear against the metal, listening for sounds from the corridor beyond. Her enhanced hearing, a gift from military augmentations that couldn't be fully removed. Picked up the distinctive clicking of hegemony battlesuits moving in formation. "How many of you have any combat experience?" Maya asked the group, her voice low but carrying clearly through the space. 3 hands went up hesitantly, 2 former colonial militia and 1 ex-security guard. It wasn't much, but it was something. Rodriguez stared at her in confusion. "Chen, what are you doing?" "You're a cargo clerk, not a soldier." Maya's lips curved in a smile that held no warmth. "I was a cargo clerk. Right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and a very unpleasant death." She turned to the group, her demeanor completely transformed from the quiet woman they thought they knew. "The hegemony doesn't take prisoners. They consider humans a viral infection that needs to be eliminated. If we stay here and wait for rescue, we'll all be dead before anyone even knows what happened." She moved to crate XK7742, the one with the weapon signature, and began working on its security locks with tools from her belt. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency, bypassing safeguards that should have been impossible to crack without proper authorization codes. "You seem to know a lot about military hardware for a clerk," observed Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist who worked in the station's research division. "I pick things up," Maya replied, not looking away from her work. The lock disengaged with a soft click, and she opened the crate to reveal exactly what her scanner had detected. Military-grade plasma rifles, personal shields, and enough ammunition to outfit a small squad. Someone on this station was smuggling weapons. Lucky for us. She distributed the weapons to the 3 volunteers with combat experience and kept the most sophisticated rifle for herself. The moment her hands closed around the familiar weight of the weapon, muscle memory flooded back. She checked the charge, verified the targeting system, and performed a weapons safety check so smoothly it looked like breathing. The transformation was remarkable to witness. The quiet, unremarkable woman who had served coffee and processed cargo manifests was gone, replaced by someone who radiated competence and deadly purpose. Maya's posture changed, her voice carried command authority, and her eyes held the calculating look of a predator evaluating threats. "The hegemony will sweep section by section," Maya explained, her tactical mind already working through possibilities. "They'll start with the command center and communication arrays, then move to secure population centers. We have maybe 20 minutes before they reach this section." A young mother holding her daughter spoke up nervously. "Can't we just surrender? Tell them we're civilians?" Maya's expression softened slightly as she looked at the child, but her voice remained firm. "The Hegemony Collective doesn't recognize the concept of civilian casualties when it comes to humans. To them, every human is a potential threat that needs elimination. Our only chance is to fight our way to the emergency shuttles in Bay 7. She moved to the cargo bay's maintenance panel and began rewiring the door controls. "The corridors between here and Bay 7 pass through 3 major intersections. Each one will likely be guarded. We'll need to move fast and hit hard." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her scientific mind grappling with the sudden reality of their situation. "You're talking about fighting trained soldiers with a handful of weapons and a group of civilians. That's suicide." Maya paused in her work and looked at the doctor directly. "Dr. Kim, I've spent my entire adult life studying the hegemony military structure. I know their tactics, their weaknesses, and their psychological profiles. What I'm talking about isn't suicide. It's our only chance of survival." The door controls sparked and Maya stepped back as the emergency locks disengaged. "But I need everyone to understand something. The moment we leave this room, we're at war. Some of us might not make it to those shuttles. If anyone wants to stay here and take their chances with surrender, I won't think less of them." No one moved. Even the frightened civilians seemed to understand that their quiet cargo clerk had become their best hope for survival. Maya checked her rifle one final time and moved toward the door. "Stay close, stay quiet, and do exactly what I tell you. We're going to move like ghosts through these corridors." She paused at the threshold, her hand on the door release. "And remember, the hegemony has never faced humans who refuse to give up. Today they're going to learn why that's a mistake." The door slid open silently, revealing the darkened corridor beyond. Maya stepped through first, her weapon raised and ready, leading a group of terrified civilians into a fight for their lives. The corridor stretched before them in eerie silence, emergency lighting casting long shadows that Maya used to her advantage. She moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent years perfecting the art of remaining unseen, her enhanced senses mapping every sound and movement in their vicinity. Behind her, the group of civilians followed as quietly as they could manage, their trust placed entirely in this woman they barely knew. Maya held up a closed fist, bringing the group to an immediate halt. Through the wall vibrations, she could feel the approach of a hegemony patrol, 3 soldiers in powered armor, moving in standard formation. She signaled for the civilians to press against the wall and wait, then moved forward alone to reconnoiter. The hegemony soldiers were Vortani, a species known for their methodical approach to warfare and their complete lack of empathy for other life forms. Their 6-legged forms moved with mechanical precision through the intersection ahead, their compound eyes scanning for any signs of resistance. Maya studied their movement patterns, noting the slight delay in their sensor sweeps and the predictable timing of their communication checks. She returned to the group and spoke in whispers. 3 hostiles at the next intersection. I'm going to take them out quietly. When I signal, you move across quickly and continue to the maintenance shaft 20 meters down the left corridor. Rodriguez grabbed her arm. You can't take on 3 armored soldiers by yourself. That's insane. Maya gently removed his hand from her arm, her touch firm but not unkind. Rodriguez, in my previous career, I once held off an entire hegemony battalion for 6 hours while evacuating a colony world. 3 soldiers is a manageable problem. She checked her rifle's settings, switching to silent discharge mode, and pulled out a small device that looked like a standard maintenance tool, but had been subtly modified. I'll disable their communication array first, then engage. You'll have 30 seconds to cross the intersection once the shooting starts. Dr. Kim watched with fascination and growing unease as Maya prepared for combat. The transformation was complete now. Every movement was economical and purposeful, every breath controlled and measured. This wasn't the same person who had quietly processed cargo manifests for 8 months. Maya moved forward, becoming one with the shadows. The maintenance device in her hand was actually an electromagnetic pulse generator, something she had built during her first week on the station out of seemingly innocent components. Old habits included being prepared for every contingency. The first Vortani soldier never knew what hit him. Maya's pulse device scrambled his communication array and targeting system simultaneously, while her plasma rifle delivered a silent shot that penetrated his armor's weak point at the neck joint. He dropped without a sound. The second soldier began to turn, alerted by his companion's sudden fall, but Maya was already moving. She rolled behind a support beam as his weapon discharged, the energy bolt scorching the wall where she had been standing. Her return shot took him center mass, the plasma burst overwhelming his shield generators. The third Vortani managed to activate an alarm beacon before Maya's shot brought him down, but by then it was too late to matter. The corridor was clear, and the civilians were already moving across the intersection as instructed. Impressive, Dr. Kim said quietly as Maya rejoined them. Where exactly did a cargo clerk learn to fight like that? Maya's expression remained focused on their route ahead. I wasn't always a cargo clerk, Dr. Kim, and right now our past doesn't matter as much as our future. She consulted a small display on her wrist, checking the station's layout. That alarm beacon means we have about 8 minutes before they send a full squad to investigate. We need to reach the shuttle bay before then. They moved through the maintenance shaft, a cramped space that forced them to crawl single file. Maya led the way, her enhanced hearing monitoring for any signs of pursuit. The shaft connected several sections of the station, allowing them to bypass the main corridors where hegemony forces would be concentrating their searches. As they crawled, Maya's mind was already working through the challenges ahead. The shuttle bay would be heavily guarded, and even if they reached a ship, they would need someone capable of piloting it through a blockade. She had flight training, of course, but it had been years since she had flown anything more complex than a cargo hauler. Behind her, she could hear whispered conversations as the civilians tried to process what they had witnessed. Their quiet cargo clerk had just eliminated 3 trained soldiers with the efficiency of a professional killer. The questions would come eventually, but for now, survival took precedence over explanations. The maintenance shaft ended at an access panel that opened into Storage Bay 5, just 2 sections away from their destination. Maya carefully opened the panel and peered into the bay beyond. Empty, but that wouldn't last long. She could hear the distant sounds of hegemony forces conducting systematic searches. From here, we move quickly to the shuttle bay, Maya explained as the group gathered in the storage bay. No more stealth possible. We go in fast, secure a ship, and break through their blockade before they can coordinate a proper response. The young mother who had spoken earlier looked terrified. What if there are too many of them? What if we can't make it? Maya knelt down to the woman's eye level, her voice gentle but absolutely certain. Then we make them pay for every meter of ground they take. Humans don't surrender and we don't leave our people behind. That's what makes us different from the hegemony. She stood and checked her weapon one final time. Ready? It's time to remind them why humans are the most feared warriors in this galaxy. The shuttle bay doors stood before them like a gateway to freedom or death. Through the small observation window, Maya could see at least 8 hegemony soldiers positioned around the various spacecraft, their attention focused on the main entrance. They hadn't expected anyone to approach through the storage bay access corridor. Maya studied the tactical situation with the cold calculation that had once made her the most requested operative in the Terran Special Forces. The bay held 4 civilian shuttles and 1 military transport that had been undergoing routine maintenance. The transport would be their best option if she could get it operational, but it was positioned at the far end of the bay, requiring them to cross 30 meters of open ground under enemy fire. Here's what we're going to do, Maya whispered to the group. Rodriguez, you and the other combat veterans take the civilians to that maintenance alcove there. Stay down and don't move until I signal. Dr. Kim, I need you to get to the transport's computer system and begin startup procedures. The access codes are likely still in the maintenance logs. Dr. Kim stared at her in disbelief. I'm a xenobiologist, not a pilot. I don't know anything about starting military transports. Maya's smile was sharp as a blade. Dr. Kim, you have 3 advanced degrees and an IQ that makes most people uncomfortable. You can figure out a startup sequence. She handed the doctor a small data pad. Besides, I've already downloaded the necessary protocols. You just need to follow the instructions. She turned to address the entire group. Once shooting starts, everything changes. The hegemony will call for reinforcements, and we'll have maybe 3 minutes before this bay becomes impossible to escape from. Stay low, move fast, and trust that I know what I'm doing. Maya positioned herself at the door, her rifle set to maximum discharge. She had counted the enemy positions and calculated angles of fire. 8 soldiers, multiple species, but all following standard hegemony tactical doctrine. Their training made them predictable, and predictable enemies were vulnerable enemies. In my previous life, Maya said quietly, more to herself than to the others, they called me the Ghost of Centauri Prime. Today, these soldiers are going to learn why. She burst through the door like a force of nature unleashed. Her first shot took down the hegemony commander before he could raise his weapon, the plasma bolt punching through his shield generators and dropping him instantly. Her second shot disabled the communication array they had set up near the shuttle bay's main console. The remaining soldiers reacted with trained efficiency, but Maya was already moving. She rolled behind a cargo container as return fire scorched the air where she had been standing, then popped up to deliver 2 more precise shots. A Thrakari soldier with 4 arms tried to flank her position, but Maya had anticipated the move and was waiting for him. The battle was chaos and precision combined. Maya's enhanced reflexes and years of combat experience allowing her to stay 1 step ahead of her enemies. She moved through the shuttle bay like a deadly shadow, using the spacecraft and equipment as cover, while systematically eliminating threats. Dr. Kim reached the transport and began frantically working on the startup sequence, her scientific mind processing the technical information with surprising speed. Behind her, the combat veterans kept the civilians safe in the alcove while providing covering fire when they could. A massive hegemony soldier in powered armor emerged from behind one of the shuttles, his weapon targeting Dr. Kim at the transport. Maya saw the threat and moved without thinking, placing herself between the soldier and the doctor. The enemy's energy blast caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around and sending her crashing into a support beam. Pain flared through her body, but Maya forced herself to focus. The shoulder wound was serious but not immediately life-threatening. She raised her rifle with her good arm and put 2 shots into the soldier's power core, watching his armor systems fail as he collapsed. Maya, Dr. Kim called out. The transport is online, but I can't figure out the launch sequence. Maya struggled to her feet, her left arm hanging useless at her side. Blood seeped through her shirt, but her eyes remained clear and determined. Start the engines and open the bay doors. I'll handle the rest. She stumbled toward the transport as the remaining hegemony forces regrouped for a final assault. Through the shuttle bay windows, she could see more soldiers approaching. Their time was running out. The transport's engines roared to life as Dr. Kim successfully activated the power systems. Maya reached the pilot's seat and dropped into it, her good hand flying over the controls with muscle memory that transcended her injuries. The launch sequence was complex, but she had flown these ships through combat zones when the stakes were measured in entire star systems. Everyone aboard now, Maya shouted over the engine noise. The civilians rushed from their hiding place and scrambled into the transport's passenger compartment. Rodriguez helped Dr. Kim secure the wounded as more hegemony forces poured into the shuttle bay. Maya's fingers danced across the control panel, bringing weapon systems online and calculating their escape vector. The bay doors were opening slowly, revealing the star-filled void beyond and the hegemony blockade ships waiting in the distance. "Hold on," Maya called back to her passengers. "This is going to get interesting." The transport lifted off with a roar of thrusters, Maya's piloting skills evident as she maneuvered the heavy ship through the narrow bay opening, while enemy fire sparked off their shields. They cleared the station and accelerated toward open space. But the real challenge was just beginning. 3 hegemony interceptors were moving to block their escape route, their weapons charging for a killing blow. The transport shuddered as enemy fire impacted their rear shields, but Maya's hands remained steady on the controls, despite the blood loss from her shoulder wound. She had faced worse odds in smaller ships, though never with a compartment full of civilians depending on her survival. "Dr. Kim," Maya called back without taking her eyes off the tactical display, "I need you to monitor our shield status and call out any critical failures. Rodriguez, there's a medical kit in the compartment behind you. Get something on this shoulder wound before I pass out and we all die." The 3 hegemony interceptors moved in perfect formation, their coordination speaking to years of training together. But Maya had studied hegemony tactics extensively during her military career, and she knew their patterns better than they knew themselves. She pushed the transport into a steep dive relative to the station's orientation, using the massive structure as cover while building speed. The interceptors followed predictably, maintaining their formation as they pursued. Maya waited until they were committed to the chase vector, then executed a maneuver that civilian transport ships weren't supposed to be capable of. The ship rolled inverted and pulled into a tight loop that brought them face to face with their pursuers. Maya's finger found the weapons control and she opened fire at point-blank range. The lead interceptor, caught completely off guard by the impossible maneuver, took the full force of the transport's guns and exploded in a brilliant flash. "Impossible," Dr. Kim breathed, watching the tactical display. "The G-forces from that maneuver should have killed us all." Maya's voice was strained but focused. Inertial compensators work better when you know how to override their safety protocols. She pushed the transport into another sharp turn, evading fire from the remaining interceptors. Military transports have hidden capabilities that most people never learn about. Rodriguez finished applying emergency medical patches to Maya's shoulder, the treatment stopping the bleeding but doing little for the pain. "Who the hell are you, really?" he demanded. "No cargo clerk knows how to fly like this." Maya's answer was interrupted by proximity alarms as more hegemony ships moved to intercept them. The blockade was tightening and their window of escape was closing rapidly. She studied the sensor readings, counting ships and calculating odds with the same analytical precision she had once applied to battlefield assessments. "My name is Major Maya Chen, Terran Special Forces call sign Ghost," she said quietly, her focus never leaving the controls. "I was reported killed in action 3 years ago during the siege of Vega Colony. I've been hiding among civilians ever since, trying to forget what I was trained to do." The transport bucked as another enemy salvo found their shields, warning lights flashing across the control panel. Maya pushed more power to the engines, but the hegemony ships were faster and more maneuverable. They needed an advantage, something the enemy wouldn't expect. "Dr. Kim, what do you know about hegemony ship design?" Maya asked, her tactical mind already working through possibilities. The xenobiologist looked confused by the sudden question. "I've studied their technology extensively. Their ships use centralized command networks for coordination. It's one of their greatest tactical advantages." Maya's eyes lit up with dangerous understanding. "And their greatest weakness. If we could disrupt that network, their formation would collapse into chaos." She turned to Rodriguez. "Remember that electromagnetic pulse device I used on the soldiers? I need you to modify it, make it 10 times more powerful and rig it to our external transmitter array." Rodriguez stared at her. That would burn out our entire communication system. We'd be flying blind. Better blind than dead, Maya replied, dodging another volley from the pursuing interceptors. Do it now. We have maybe 2 minutes before they box us in completely. As Rodriguez worked frantically on the modifications, Maya continued her deadly dance through space, using every trick she had learned in 15 years of combat flying. The transport responded to her commands like an extension of her will, twisting and turning through patterns that seemed to defy physics. The second interceptor made the mistake of trying to match her maneuvers, pulling too tight in an attempt to get a targeting lock. Maya watched as the enemy pilot's inexperience with human unpredictability cost him control of his ship. The interceptor spun out and collided with a piece of station debris, ending in another brilliant explosion. Device ready, Rodriguez announced. But Maya, if this doesn't work, it will work, Maya said with absolute certainty. Hegemony commanders are trained to follow doctrine, not to adapt to chaos. We're about to give them more chaos than their systems can handle. She positioned the transport at the center of the hegemony formation, surrounded by enemy ships, but exactly where she needed to be. The remaining interceptor was closing fast, its weapons charging for a killing shot, while the blockade ships moved to seal off any escape routes. Everyone hold on, Maya announced. This is going to hurt. She activated Rodriguez's modified pulse device, sending a massive electromagnetic surge through the transport's transmitter array. The pulse spread outward like an invisible shockwave, reaching every hegemony ship within range and overwhelming their centralized command networks. The effect was immediate and devastating. Hegemony ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly found themselves operating independently, their tactical computers struggling to re-establish connections. Collisions were narrowly avoided as formation discipline collapsed, and the tight blockade formation became a scattered mess of confused vessels. Maya didn't wait to admire her handiwork. She pushed the transport to maximum burn and shot through the gap in the blockade before the enemy could reorganize. Behind them, Kepler Station grew smaller against the stars, and ahead lay the freedom of open space. But their escape came at a cost. The transport's communication array was completely burned out. Their shields were failing, and Maya's shoulder wound was getting worse despite the medical patches. They were alive, but they weren't safe yet. The transport drifted through space on minimal power, its engines running silent to avoid detection by any pursuing hegemony forces. Maya had found a hiding spot in the shadow of a small asteroid, buying them time to assess their situation and tend to their wounds. The immediate danger was past, but their problems were far from over. Dr. Kim worked on treating Maya's shoulder with the limited medical supplies available, her scientific training proving useful in field medicine. The wound was serious but not life-threatening if properly cared for. Around them, the rescued civilians huddled together, still processing the events of the last few hours. The communication array is completely fried, Rodriguez reported from the damaged systems panel. We can't call for help, and we can't warn anyone about what happened at the station. Maya winced as Dr. Kim applied fresh bandages. The hegemony will have moved fast after our escape. By now, they've either taken complete control of Kepler Station or destroyed it to eliminate evidence of their presence. Either way, those people we left behind... She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. The weight of survival guilt settled over the group like a heavy blanket. They were alive because of Maya's skills and sacrifice, but hundreds of others hadn't been so fortunate. This wasn't a random raid, Maya said, her analytical mind working through the implications. The hegemony doesn't waste resources on isolated frontier stations unless there's a strategic purpose. They were after something specific. Dr. Kim paused in her medical work. The research division has been working on some classified projects. Mostly xenobiology studies, but there were rumors about other things. Military applications of alien biotechnology. Maya's expression darkened. Biological weapons. The hegemony has been trying to develop targeted viruses that affect only human physiology. If they got their hands on advanced research data, the implications hung in the air like a poison cloud. A biological weapon that could target humans specifically would shift the balance of power in the galaxy permanently. The hegemony could eliminate human populations while leaving their own species untouched. We have to warn the Terran Defense Force, Rodriguez said urgently. If the hegemony has that research, we will, Maya assured him, though her mind was already working through the challenges ahead. But first we need to reach friendly territory. Our nearest option is the mining colony at Ceres Delta, but that's a 3-day journey with our current fuel reserves. She moved carefully to the pilot's seat, her shoulder protesting every movement. The transport systems were badly damaged from their escape, and several critical components were operating beyond safe parameters. It would be a miracle if they made it to Ceres Delta without a major system failure. Major Chen, Dr. Kim said quietly, using Maya's real rank for the first time. When this is over, what happens to you? The Terran military thinks you're dead. Your records were classified and sealed. Maya's hands moved over the navigation controls, plotting their course to Ceres Delta. I've been dead for 3 years. Dr. Kim. Maya Chen, the cargo clerk, was just a ghost pretending to be alive. After today, both versions of me are finished. She initiated a controlled burn toward their destination, keeping power levels low to minimize their sensor signature. Behind them, the asteroid field provided cover from any pursuit, but Maya knew the hegemony would be searching systematically for their escaped transport. The young mother with her daughter approached the pilot's area hesitantly. "Thank you," she said simply. "I know you didn't have to help us. You could have hidden and saved yourself." Maya looked at the little girl, who couldn't be more than 6 years old, and felt something stir in her chest that had been dormant for years. "That's not who humans are," she said softly. "We don't abandon our own, and we don't let evil triumph without a fight. That's what makes us different from the hegemony." The transport continued its journey through the void, carrying its precious cargo of survivors toward safety. But Maya knew their escape was only the beginning. The hegemony had revealed their hand too early, and now humanity would have warning about the biological weapons research. The war that everyone had hoped was over was about to begin again. Hours passed in relative silence as they traveled through hyperspace. Maya dozed fitfully in the pilot's seat, her body demanding rest despite the danger they still faced. Dr. Kim monitored their course and kept watch over the other survivors, her respect for their rescuer growing with each passing hour. When proximity alarms began sounding, Maya snapped instantly awake, her combat reflexes overriding exhaustion. The sensor display showed 3 ships approaching fast, their configurations unknown but their intent clearly hostile. "Everyone strap in," Maya announced, her hands already moving to the weapons controls. "We're not done fighting yet." The ships resolved on their screens as hegemony pursuit vessels, lighter and faster than the blockade ships they had faced before. Somehow the enemy had tracked them through hyperspace, and now they were trapped in open space with nowhere to hide. Maya studied the tactical situation with grim determination. The transport was damaged, their shields were minimal, and she was operating with one good arm. By any reasonable assessment, they were about to die. But Maya Chen had never been reasonable, and she had never learned how to surrender. The 3 hegemony pursuit ships closed in like predators sensing wounded prey, their sleek hulls bristling with weapons designed for quick kills. Maya's hands flew over the controls despite her injured shoulder, every movement precise and purposeful as she prepared for what might be her final battle. "They're jamming our distress beacon," Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with fear. "Even if we had working communications, no one would hear us out here." Maya's eyes never left the tactical display as she calculated vectors and firing solutions. "Good. That means they want to take us alive for interrogation. It also means they're underestimating what a cornered human can do." She activated the transport's remaining weapon systems, their power levels pathetically low compared to the pursuing warships. Dr. Kim strapped herself into a seat beside the pilot's station. "Maya, even if by some miracle we survive this, how do we warn the Terran Defense Force about the biological weapons research? We're still days from the nearest colony." Maya's response was interrupted by incoming fire from the lead pursuit ship. She threw the transport into a spiraling, evasive pattern, using every trick she had learned in 15 years of combat flying. The enemy shots missed but barely, scorching past their hull with lethal proximity. "There's something those ships don't know," Maya said, her voice calm despite the desperate situation. "This transport was carrying classified military cargo when it was captured at Kepler Station. Among other things, there's an experimental quantum communicator in the cargo hold. It has enough range to reach Earth directly." Rodriguez stared at her in amazement. "You've known about this the whole time?" "I've known about a lot of things," Maya replied, dodging another volley from the hegemony ships. The question is whether we can stay alive long enough to use it. She pushed the transport's engines beyond their safe operational limits, trading long-term reliability for immediate speed. The pursuit ships responded by tightening their formation, trying to box the transport in for a capture rather than destruction. It was exactly the tactical mistake Maya had been hoping for. When enemies got confident, they made predictable choices. Dr. Kim, I need you to get to the cargo hold and find a cylindrical device about the size of a water bottle with Terran defense markings. Rodriguez, take 2 of the other men and prepare to repel boarders. They're going to try to take us alive. Maya waited until the pursuit ships were committed to their capture formation, then executed a maneuver that would have been impossible with a healthy crew. She killed the engines completely and spun the transport to face their pursuers, presenting the smallest possible target profile while bringing their weapons to bear. The lead hegemony ship, expecting the transport to continue fleeing, suddenly found itself facing direct fire at close range. Maya's shots, though limited in power, were precisely targeted at the ship's sensor array and communication systems. The enemy vessel veered away, temporarily blinded and unable to coordinate with its companions, but the victory was short-lived. The other 2 ships closed in from different angles, their weapons charging for a disabling shot that would leave the transport helpless. Maya knew she had perhaps 30 seconds before it was over. That's when Dr. Kim's voice came over the intercom, crackling with excitement. Maya, I found the communicator. It's activating now. The quantum communicator sent its signal instantly across the galaxy, faster than light and impossible to intercept. On Earth, Terran Defense Force headquarters received an emergency transmission from a supposedly dead Special Forces major, warning of hegemony biological weapons and requesting immediate military response to the Kepler Station sector. Message sent, Dr. Kim announced. Whatever happens now, they'll know about the threat. Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. The mission was complete. The warning had been delivered. Everything else was just details. The hegemony ships moved in for the final capture, their boarding tubes extending to breach the transport's hull. Maya could have fought to the end, could have taken some of them with her in a final blaze of defiance. Instead, she powered down the weapons and activated the transport's surrender protocols. What are you doing? Rodriguez demanded. Maya's smile was sharp as a blade, something they'll never expect. I'm surrendering. She opened a communication channel to the hegemony ships. This is Major Maya Chen, Terran Special Forces. I'm prepared to discuss terms for the safety of these civilians. The response came from the lead ship's commander, his voice filled with satisfaction. The ghost of Centauri Prime. We had heard you were dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, Maya replied calmly, but they're about to become much more accurate. You see, Commander, there's something else you should know about this transport's cargo. The hegemony commander's satisfaction turned to suspicion.
What are you talking about?
Maya's finger hovered over a final control, one she had hoped never to use. Military transports carrying classified cargo are equipped with self-destruct charges to prevent enemy acquisition. I've just armed a fusion warhead with a yield sufficient to vaporize everything within a 50-kilometer radius. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya continued in the same calm voice. You have 2 choices, Commander. Withdraw immediately and let us continue to Ceres Delta, or we all die together right here. Either way, your biological weapons research dies with us. The standoff lasted for long minutes, each side calculating odds and consequences. Finally, the hegemony commander's voice returned, filled with frustrated rage. This is not over, Ghost. The hegemony will remember this. I'm counting on it, Maya replied. The pursuit ships withdrew, their commanders unwilling to face mutual destruction for a prize they could no longer claim. Maya watched them disappear into hyperspace before finally allowing herself to collapse back into the pilot's seat. 3 days later, the transport limped into Ceres Delta spaceport, its passengers alive but forever changed by their experience. Maya Chen was officially brought back from the dead and debriefed by Terran Defense Force intelligence. The biological weapons research was secured, and the hegemony threat was neutralized before it could fully develop. But Maya never returned to her quiet life as a cargo clerk. The stranger she had tried to become was gone forever, burned away by the fire of necessity and duty. She accepted a new commission with the Terran Defense Force, leading a special unit tasked with countering hegemony operations across the galaxy. Because some people, once awakened, can never truly sleep again, and sometimes the galaxy needs its ghosts to be real.